Hello and welcome to another episode of A Coffee with Chris, the social media show that helps you create impact. As always, brought to you in association with our charity partners, 𝗖𝗄𝗄, who help local people affected by cancer. And hey, for those of you that are watching this now, 21,790 𝗖𝗄𝗄𝗲 support sessions were delivered in 2024. Thanks to your charitable fundraising. So big up to the guys at 𝗖𝗄𝗄𝗲 helping local people affected by cancer, and big up to Blue Bear Coffee, replacing your business's coffee to help children that have experienced human trafficking. They've got a shop on Tombland in Norwich today. As always, I am obsessed with this blend. I have to say, I'm sipping on their Indonesia blend, which is absolutely delicious. I'm normally meant to do these Coffee with Chris conversations while sipping a coffee, but I've already downed it because it's so good. A massive, massive thank you, as always, to our sponsors, Oliver Hill from Hill Coaching Company, Limitless Film and Media, Mindset HR, and Wingfield Consultants. That's the formalities done and out of the way. Welcome to today's guest. So happy to have Sue Wilcock on, who is the Managing Director, owner and editor and head of everything at UK Director Magazines. UK Director Magazines, for those of you guys that don't know, you need to know. They help people run their businesses better through free, keyword, free quarterly magazines, events, and now a business club and a podcast. Sue, welcome to the show. I want to start with the why. Why should businesses get involved in print publications like this beauty here?
Okay, so my background in all of this is I'm not a journalist. I'm a bit of a poacher turned gamekeeper. My specialisation is in marketing and PR. That's what I've done for many, many years, too many to mention. For me, it's about understanding the consumer, the person that's reading, the person that's listening, why they do it, what their lifestyle is. And for us, particularly since COVID, we have realized that more and more of our target audience, which is owner-managed business owners, directors, senior decision makers in SMEs, more and more of them want to actually switch off from the noise that is digital, that is emails, that is social, and take time out to just pick up a magazine, read some copy, read some interesting stuff from people that they're likely to bump into at networking events or that are part of the local business community, and read some really great stuff that gives them some inspiration, motivation, tips, advice, just anything. But it's also easy to put down and remember when you come back to it where you were. It's not like sort of going into social media and then losing the post, so to speak, and then you can't find it again.
It's so fast. It's so fast moving social, isn't it, Sue? And I empathise with you on that entirely. There is something still so special about print, and I definitely think there's a huge area of latent potential for businesses to fulfil in this world, where they've perhaps gone too far the other way and they don't do anything, what I'll call it, real now, which is quite interesting. So obviously, given that this is a social media show, I want to ask you a question. What can social media learn from print? For example, something around headlines or grabbing attention? Is that something that's worth thinking about?
I think that, how do I put this politely, really? I mean, social media tends to be all about me, all about the person that's going on there. So unless we're doing company posts, which seem to be a bit dry and a bit boring, if they're to do with the person, a lot of people fall into the mistake of making it all about them. Everything that they post is all about them. So for me, the most engaging content is when someone is sharing some experience, some real authenticity around some truth around what they've experienced and what they've gone through, but in an upbeat way, not that's so depressing that you come away from it thinking, God, that was terrible. But I think from a print point of view, we learn from that, because we've got all our articles, or majority of our articles, everything we do is personality driven. So for me, I'm not really interested in, for the person that we're talking about or talking to, runs a coffee shop one week and then runs a social media company the next. That doesn't bother me, because what bothers me is them. What bothers me is the trials and the tribulations, the challenges, what they're going through. And I think by really having engaging copy, sometimes social media misses the mark on that.
Yes.
And headlines especially. I think I don't think I'm the only person that gets very frustrated with some media outlets, for instance, from clickbait. I mean, do you know what I mean when I say clickbait, don't you?
Yes,
so there you go, you get this headline and you think, oh, and you click on it and you think, fooled again. You go into something that's completely not relevant to it, because they just want the visitors, they just want the impressions. And sometimes I find that I take a bit of a cynical approach to that. I'd much rather be
with you.
Just be real about it.
Do you know, Sue, I love actually what you said at the start of that answer there, where you spoke about people and authentic stories and real experiences from real people. And it seems to be, since social media turned on, it was all about kind of billboarding your business, right? And now there's lots of chat, and hey, rightly so, about personal brand and building yourself as a key person of influence, being a thought leader. But this is something that's been the case forever in the world of print, right? Because it's all about the story of the person. So it's quite funny, isn't it, now that all of a sudden social media's caught up with, you know, it's way more impactful to tell stories about yourself and your journey and what goes on for you versus your business. Am I on the right wavelength there?
Yeah. And also the one thing that print can do, it can give you more space.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, if you put a post on social media, you've got a limited amount of space that you can work with to be able to keep people's attention. Whereas when you've got print and you've got for instance, with our lead interviews, and everybody, believe you me, wants to be a lead interviewer, which is surprising, because we're a print magazine, and yet the amount of young business owners that we get coming to us wanting to go on that front cover it's quite satisfying in a way, because they obviously see the benefit of being in print. But it enables us, because we craft those interviews, we do the interviews, we write them up and everything like that, and we're able to tell the story of that person in a much better way than you could do in a short post, which is only just cutting on the surface, really.
Yeah, makes sense, Sue. That makes sense completely. So I really like to help SMEs on this Coffee with Chris show, and I think it'd be really worthwhile, Sue, sharing kind of like your starting steps, if you like, into the world of getting involved in print. So for a small business that has yet to engage in this world, what are the things that are really effective? Say, for example, let's use that example. I run a coffee shop and I want to get myself involved in a print magazine. What sort of things should I be looking to achieve through your type of media versus social media, for example?
Okay, so I would say pictures, photos. They work as well with social media, but they in print as well. The photos of people, having those photos which are just not nondescript. I mean, what I will use as an example, I mean, I've worked in delivering PR in construction for many, many years. And it always used to tickle me that they would have these wonderful photos taken of things that had been built, pubs and hotels and leisure centres, and it never had any people in it. No, it never had any people in it, because all they want to do was show the building off. But actually the best way to do it is to show it off in being used for what it's supposed to be used for. And I think that's another thing that we would learn from print, because print, we put lots of photos in, and we've worked really hard over the years for the people that contribute to the magazines to make sure that they get the right main photo, because sometimes that main photo is That's the hook. It's not the headline. It's the actual photo that hooks people in. And I think social media is the same. Don't you think that? I mean, you get this photo pop up, and it's like, oh, and you end up, you open the post up and have a read.
That's opened up a whole new area, actually, Sue, which is probably more of a conversation for one of our photography guests, but I think it'd be worth getting your advice on this as well. So are you seeing, Sue, a shift from kind of like basic, bland, corporate images without people in to now almost lifestyle, images of people using things on machinery, for example, pouring cups of coffee, to use that example? It's something we see in the e-com world all the time, right? Products on white backgrounds, and we see this transition. And you're saying effectively that if someone wants to get the most out of print, they need to invest in their photography, but specifically photography of their people within their business. Is that what you're saying? Yeah,
I'm thinking when we do. Right. Okay. So what we do with our magazines is we make sure that when we craft a lot, we help people that come in to contribute to the magazine. We're not a conventional media outlet. I don't want you to think that at all, because I would say we're more of a business service provider, in the fact that what we do is someone will come to us and they've got something that they can share. They might be an owner managed business and they've got something that they can share that fits with it. So what we do is we will work with them to craft the piece. Now that page that they might have or take is the important elements of that, and that is what works in print, is obviously a great headline, but short and sharp. A great photo that hooks them in and thinks, oh, but it could be completely off the wall. Think outside the box. Don't think traditional, don't think conservative. But the other thing is that one of the other things we get a lot of feedback on is the structure of the page, that it's easy to read, that we don't talk in acronyms, we don't talk in jargon. And a lot of the things that go wrong in a business is, especially in the tech world, is all this tech speak, and honestly, we're losing people because a lot of us don't understand that. And certainly when you're our audience, which are business owners and that sort of thing, they don't really understand, so they switch off because they haven't got the time to find out what it actually means. So we aim to try and explain things just as you would speak to the neighbour over the garden fence. We don't use buzzwords, we don't use any of that. And what we do is we break it up into subheadings, which makes it a lot easier, bullet points, all those things which make it very much more timely. The other thing I would say is, and this is another thing, is people don't have time to read everything to understand what it is that you're asking them to do. So the call to action, we're all trying to do something, we're all trying to sell something, we're all trying to get someone to engage with us. But sometimes if you don't actually say that in a way, you don't actually ask that question in what you're writing about, how on earth are people going to make that up? I use this analogy a lot. It's a bit like putting someone in an empty car park and asking them to park the car. They can't decide where to park. Whereas if you say park there or there, it's a lot easier. And I think that's what I would say. When you're writing things, whether it's in social media, whether it's in print, get to the point. Make sure it's clear what people are asking you to do or what you want them to do, because that's a question we will get, is say, well, okay, what would you like us to do? Do you want us to donate? Do you want us to support? Do you want us to ring you up? Do you want us to visit your website? What do you want us to do?
Sue, I am so with you. And hey, welcome to the Call to Action crew, the Call to Action camp. I've been telling people on this podcast for months now, start sprinkling in some more call to actions. Tell people to do something. If not, they're not going to do anything, right? I think that's some real sterling advice. So I was going to kind of do a bit of a deeper dive with you actually on kind of engaging copy of you all, because as you've said, it seems to me like people suck at this on social, but also in their long form as well, when they're, doing that storytelling piece, when they are engaging with a print publication. And I know that you guys specialize in that when it comes to your pieces for the North Director magazine, for example, which I'm a big part of. What does engaging copy for like a long form print magazine mean to you? What keeps people reading it? And as you've said, what keeps people having that kind of that space to truly delve into something versus a short, sharp social post?
One of the things I say in my podcast when I introduce it is that the main aim that we have is that our content, once people have read it, once people have listened to it, they will sit back and they'll say, wow, that was worthwhile. I've learned something. And that is ultimately what I want to do. So it's like our events. We've moved on from the magazines now. We now do and I call them educational events. And you've been a keynote speaker at one of them, so you can vouch for that. But it's about getting people in the room to have a couple of keynote speakers. But it is very, very much around helping people to learn. And that can be learning from other people's experiences. It can be learning from people giving you some tips and advice. It can be learning from just meeting someone that will be a good connection for you and you can do business with. But the whole thing is around learning. And let's be honest, a lot of our readers, a lot of the people that engage with us, the first experience they have of learning anything or going back into that environment is that hasn't been since school. They've gone to networking events, but they haven't actually sat in an area where they're learning something. And it doesn't have to be, well, I'm learning, you know, the whatever the algebraic the equation is. It's more about the fact that you're learning from other people. Because that's one great thing. Our business community, they're full of people who are willing to share. And that's never absolutely amazes me, that people that you put on this pedestal and think, oh, they've got really big businesses and they're doing this really well. But actually they were where you were once, and they are quite, if you ask, they're quite happy to share their experience.
What a brilliant filter to put things through, Sue. I think, like, quite often, and hey, look, I admit I've said it myself on this podcast before. You know, it's important to give value on social, right? Give value in your marketing collateral, share stuff, right? But actually, I quite like the repositioning of that to let's help people learn something. And actually, that's a really good thing that will work on social and in magazines as well, and in print publications. Is, you know, what will someone learn from this piece? I think that's real sterling advice. Sue, I'd love you to just rewind for me, actually, because one of the key things I think that social has got from print is the importance of a real strong hook or headline or scroll stop or whatever you want to package it up as. Could we kind of do a bit of a deeper dive on headlines with you, Sue, if you don't mind? Because I think this is something that some businesses get badly wrong. And you said it earlier, you mentioned clickbait. How can businesses get the balance here between clickbait and something that's going to grab attention for them to then actually then serve their target market up with something that they can learn from?
Okay, I can. It's an art form in itself. I mean, I would imagine that most listeners are aware, aren't they, that you get the big newspapers and they have teams of people who write headlines. It's not made up by the journalists; they write the headlines. It's an art form, and one thing that's really, really good is something that is. It can either be a question, or it can be some how-to, or it can be something where people think, I can't not look at this. And one of the things that I'm picking up, so we have it in our print, in the magazine, in the fact that we have these things like, well, I'll ask a question. We had, for instance, one recently around AI. We did an event around AI, and we had AI helping to run your business better, ? I mean, it's the question mark is all important, isn't it? Because what we're saying is, does it or doesn't it? This is what the discussion point is about. So it hooks people in because they're going to actually think, well, I'm going to have a look at this and see what they're talking about.
Love that.
I think that for us as well, the top saying things like, you can't always call it the top tips to or whatever, but I'm going to laugh here because some of the best social ones that I pick up, social media posts, and it sounds really, you're going to think I'm sad, but it's like watching a video of someone folding clothes properly. Have you seen those ones?
Yes.
where they're folding them up and they're turning what is a tracksuit into a tiny little thing and then putting it in the drawer? And I'm thinking, I find those really fascinating.
Because they hooked you in, right?
Yeah, and it's around the fact of those I'm more likely to actually share them or save those because there's something I'm thinking, okay, I can come back and look at that later. I think when it comes to headlines, we've had readers, for instance, say to us, "Oh, I just tore that out and gave that too because we've put some like top 10 things that you should be about GDPR or something like that," and they've torn the page out. Which I'm not suggesting everybody tears pages out of our magazine because sacrilege, but they've handed that to the relevant people in their thing and said, right, okay, we ought to be doing some of this. That's so those are the things. It's about time. We're all busy people, certainly running businesses. We're time poor. We don't have time to spend too much on anything.
Yes.
So the idea that we've got something where we can say, I'll come back to that, or yeah, that's relevant, or whatever. And
I like that. And the thing that I love about this conversation, Sue, and the whole reason why I wanted you on is I think there is so much that digital and social media certainly can learn from content for print or long form content, right? And I love the piece of advice that you've said there around the power of that one question mark and what that did. And the way I always talk about this with our consultancy clients and some of our management clients is we want to present the reader with a psychological knot that they have to untie it, right? And so many people, I instantly say this to us, say, right, where is your question in your copy? And they say, oh, it's down here on, paragraph 13. I'm like, hey, no, let's get that higher. Almost right at the top, if not at the top, the second line. Let's really open that up and you'll find that your engagement increases from that. So, Sue, I think that's brilliant advice. And you're linking me onto something here, Sue, which is the power of using our two worlds. And let's kind of collide now, if you like, Sue. How can social media enhance print and your world, and also vice versa? I'd be really interested to see your kind of your take on that.
Well, we have the two things running parallel. So when people do the articles in the magazine and the magazine comes out, we have our social media. We prevalently work on LinkedIn because it is the business portal. As far as we're concerned, that's the main one. But what we do try to do is, well, we don't try to do it, we do it. So all of as part of our thing, as people going into the magazine, then their article with the pictures, and that will be posted out on our LinkedIn portals during the quarter that it's a live issue. And then they can go into they can go onto the article on the website, they can read it there. We also learned during COVID, and this was the thing that we learned, I mean, this is how old I am. When I took my marketing qualification, they didn't have a digital module because there was no internet or social media. So I'm old-fashioned, strategy, planning, all that sort of thing, old school. So for me, this whole digital world has opened up and does open up. The most valid thing around social is the two-way conversation, is the ability to be able to communicate with people, but they can then communicate with you. And you immediately can get a response, or you can get something that says whether people value that or they don't. Where you technically, if you just issued a print, you couldn't do that, could you? Someone would write into you or drop you an email, which we do get. But the social media aspect is a much more of a live engaging thing.
I think, Sue, there's so much wisdom in that. I am a strong believer in you should do both in tandem as well. So I think your strategy is completely right. And I also think people they can get so much more from, like, for example, right, if they've had a piece published in the 𝗖𝗵𝗿𝗲𝗲 magazines, for example, well, why not share that piece on social and encourage people to go and read it either digitally or obviously in the real world, but also open up and facilitate questions off the back of it. What did you think of us in this? And I'm just a big believer, Sue, in like the amount of credibility that comes with print, and being able to say that we were in print, I think just really cements someone's authority in the marketplace. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that when I first took over the magazines, when I took over the magazine, it was just Suffolk Director. There was nothing else, just Suffolk Director. And I then launched Norfolk Director, and we then launched Essex Director. Then start the events. But there is no doubt that we've worked really hard on the look and the feel of the magazine with this front cover, the striking front cover, which has a local lead, yes, and that's most recent with James. And Chris will soon be one, won't you, Chris? Because you're going to be going on to a future issue, yes. So the idea for me is there is something about the kudos of having yourself in print that you don't get the same. I don't know. I mean, the responses I've had to the people that have been my covers, my leads they feel that they've made it, you know, when they get on that front cover.
It's amazing, isn't it? It's amazing.
Yeah. I just don't think you get that with the social media.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's just so much more weight to it. For the people that are watching and listening back up to this point, Sue, what are your kind of quick fire do not do's when it comes to print? What are the things that you steer people away from really sharply? What are the mistakes to avoid when it comes to businesses, SMEs especially, engaging in the world of print? What doesn't work?
Talking to or using copy where you're talking to a colleague rather than a reader, that's a big mistake, because you use in-house tech. Using rubbish photos, and I say that in the nicest way, because social media, you can get away with a low resolution photo that taken on your phone, and you've sent it to someone as a small size image. That's another common mistake. We can't do that in print. We have to have the actual size. We have to have, and I'd say to people, and this might again be someone for your photography person, but investing in having some proper photography done is because it's a common mistake. You'll get this wonderful article that's been really nicely written, and it's got a rubbish photo, and it's just like, well, it does spoil it. It makes things. I also think that the best copy is around explaining things in a simple way. So it's about the fact of, for instance, I had a tech person once who was in the magazine, and their world was software development. So they were quite involved in the tech world, but they described their services as if you were going into Greg's and you were ordering a sandwich. And that whole imagery of making it easy to understand, because everybody's gone and bought a Greg's, right? This is how we would do the software, because you go like this, and it's like, wow, that's great. That's engaging copy.
Do you think, Sue, there's almost this challenge with businesses feel like they have to sound intelligent, they have to sound like they've swallowed a thesaurus, essentially? Because what you've said there is just keep it simple, and then make it simpler than you think is simple. Is that good advice?
Yeah, I often say to people, don't talk or say or speak in your article as if you would speak to colleague at work. Speak
Yeah.
to them as though you would be describing. So someone in your neighbour over the garden fence asks you, what is it you do? And you wouldn't go, oh well, and all this text speak would come out, or this anagrams and abbreviations. Financial and solicitors, probably two areas where we do have a lot of staid speaking, a lot of abbreviations. Honestly, it's quite, people that run businesses, we all run business because we're good at something, we're passionate about something. That's why we've started a business, that's why we run a business. We haven't been necessarily taught how to run a business, and a lot of us aren't academically brilliant, probably didn't go to uni. We've just started and we've built great businesses. But if you start talking to me, for instance, about profit ratio analysis and P&L balance, I'm lost, because I'm just lost. So I switch off. And I think that's the same as with anything else. You've got to have that. It's got to be right. It's got to be understandable. It's got to be user-friendly, which is the same as social media, isn't it? User-friendly.
Totally, Sue. And that's exactly what people get by engaging in the UK Director magazines, which leads me nicely on to, Sue, you talking about you. Please, let's use this as an opportunity to essentially plug and promote what you do, let's be honest, because me, myself, and I have hugely been impacted positively by engaging in the magazines. I was obviously very fortunate to be a speaker, but I've done a Lessons I've Learned piece in the magazine. I now advertise regularly in your magazine. It's been so impactful for my business. How can other business people, Sue, get involved? How do they reach out to you? Where can they do business with you, and what can they get involved in?
Reaching out to us is easy. So you can either email us at editor@ukdirectormagazines, and it's a plural magazines.co.uk. You can visit us on the website, where we've got a support us page where you can go in and you can see how to get engaged. But fundamentally, our business model, we produce a free quarterly magazine, which is printed and posted for free to several thousand as a hard copy, and it goes out to even more as a digital EPUB. To do that, we're not a charity. To do that, we rely on the support of the people that contribute to the magazine. So the way to help us is, one, we would like to get more people engaged in our business community. We'd like to get more people interacting with the magazines, buying a page for space, for instance, to talk about their story, to share some experiences or whatever. There are other ways to get involved. We have our educational events. Buy a ticket to come to one of our educational events. If you're a business owner or a director or a senior decision maker, you can come. The other thing is, we now have a business club, which is, don't think networking, think youth club for business. What we aim to do is to provide an environment where like-minded people can get together in a social environment and have a bit of fun, because let's face it, running our businesses can be
tough.
Yeah. So it's nice to do something different.
Yeah.
And we had just had this fantastic business community that you can get engaged with at all levels, but it's about helping us and being part of that.
Yeah.
So either email me or visit a website and contact us that way. Or obviously you can go through on our LinkedIn, message me on LinkedIn.
Correct. I like that, Sue. Thank you so much for your time today, Sue. I really appreciate it. I cannot emphasize enough, and I don't do this often, but it's worthy of mentioning it. I'm not a massive advocate of some of the absolute rubbish out there, and I've done the networking circle inside out, back to front, round and round, locally for years now. And the Norfolk Director magazine events are outstanding. The impact on my revenue as a business since advertising the magazine has been brilliant. And this is all thanks to you and your business, Sue. So thank you very much.
That's all right.
That's all right.
That's what we're here for.
Guys, thank you so much for watching and for tuning into another episode of A Coffee with Chris. So grateful for your support. We will be back this time next week for another episode. And in the meantime, keep on with your